One of the things that I hear the most often when I first start talking to people about their marketing is, oh man, I wish I had more time to spend on my SEO, but between my Facebook group and my LinkedIn pod and the Instagram stories, I just run out of time and I don't have time to write that blog post. And I know I should. I know it would get me off that social media hamster wheel. I can't leave my social media audience. I can't leave them hanging. And I totally get it. Social media is a great place for us to be connecting with other entrepreneurs, to be in front of our ideal clients, but it can also be a little bit of a drag on our energy because it is so frequent. For example, they say now that the average lifespan of a tweet is 18 minutes. So if you want to stay at the top of that Twitter feed, you're going to have to post 3 times an hour. That's no fun for anybody. So what are the ways that you can continue to engage with your social media audience, but also create content that will last beyond that 18-minute or 24-hour lifespan that the social media platforms have built into their algorithms? SEO. So what I'm going to share with you today is my process for starting with your SEO content and then pushing it out into your social media and into your email marketing so that you're not spending nearly as much time creating content that will disappear in a day, but instead you're building the long-term stuff and letting it waterfall down into your social media conversation. So stick with me and I'll share that with you right after this. Hi, I'm Meg Casebolt from Love at First Search, where we help online entrepreneurs to show up in search results and then turn those new readers into leads, subscribers, and sales. I'm here today to talk all about repurposing your content. So for many of us, the approach that we take to our marketing is we start our conversations on social media. So when we're thinking about what we have to write, our blinking cursor of doom is over in a Facebook group or on a Facebook page, or we know that we're going to be posting at 9 a.m. on LinkedIn every day in order to get our pod to notice it. And so because that has a time-sensitive deadline attached to it, we start our brainstorming in those spaces, and then we run out of time on the tail end because we just don't have the bandwidth to be able to be all the places. But I'm going to encourage you to flip the way that you do things so that instead of starting with social media, you start by thinking about what is going on your website. I'm going to share my approach to doing this, which is starting my brainstorming from what works in a blog post. But I know that there are some other people that will say, well, I talk about the same thing on LinkedIn every day for a week, and then I build those into a blog post. So depending on how your brain works, how your marketing strategy works, what your commitments already are, you may start from social and then build them into a blog post and then share that on social, or you may start with a blog post and push it out to social media. But the point is you can have the same ideas happening across multiple channels. You can be talking about the same thing on your blog as you do in your email, as you do in your social media, as you do in any summit presentations that you're working on. You can keep the same messaging and just keep talking about the same things over and over and over across all the platforms. You might think, oh no, people are going to get tired of hearing from me. The fact is people aren't paying as close of attention to you as you think they are. I know it's hard to hear. I wish they were. Even if people are following you on every single platform that's out there, the algorithms are not going to show them the same things in all of those places. So it's better to have the same consistent messaging across all of your platforms, and it'll take a whole lot less time than creating individual content for each platform. So what's my approach to doing this? Well, I start with keyword research, and that's how I recommend that my students do it as well. I like to start all of my planning from knowing what people are already looking for. When you're waiting on people to ask you specific questions, you're limited in the breadth of things that they know that you know about. But if you can go into the keyword research tools and find specific ideas of things that people are already going to Google for, you know that those are things that people are curious about. And your audience may not know that you know those things until you create content around it. And then the next phase would be start creating content about that topic. If you know people are looking for it and then you create content to answer their questions, then you don't have to worry about people being curious about it. You know that they are. You know that people are searching for that specific topic. You don't have to pull ideas out of the air. Google will give you every possible idea that you could come up with, and then you create the content that answers the specific questions that people are asking to Google. But Google can take a while to actually kick in and notice that you are starting to produce this content. You don't have to sit around and twiddle your fingers until Google notices you. You're not a wallflower, you're awesome, and you want people to see it now. After you produce the blog post or YouTube video or podcast episode that answers that specific question that people are asking in the keywords, after you've hit the publish button on that blog post, now's when you can switch into promotion mode. This can look different for everybody's business, but the suggestions of things that I like to do for my personal business is I always send an email out when I create a new YouTube video or publish a new blog post, so that way people know that it's fresh. And by sending that notice out to people via email, I know that I'm going to get a big chunk of people who are visiting my YouTube channel or visiting my blog post within a pretty quick period of time. And that's both good for the YouTube algorithm that people are watching the video within 24 hours, and also good for my blog, because if I have a bunch of people coming to a new page on my website, that triggers the Google robots that, hey, there's something new and exciting here, let me go take a look at what it is. So when you publish that new blog post, you don't have to go into Search Console and tell it to index it. You can just send it out to people and let them do the job for you. Kill two birds with one stone. The next thing that I recommend is to create visuals that go along with your content. If you're creating blog posts, you may want to create some sort of infographic or even just a pull quote from that blog post that you can share on social media and give people a quick visual glance of what it is that they can expect from that particular post. If you have a podcast, and we know that that's really an audio process, you may want to create a visual version of it, either a pull quote or an audiogram that takes a clip and puts it over your cover art, and that's something that people can get a sneak preview of what you're talking about in that podcast episode. And if you have a YouTube channel, like I do, you can take little clips and post them to social media. You can upload those videos, the actual files, natively onto Facebook, onto IGTV, onto LinkedIn, so that way people can watch those videos on the platforms that they're on, and that does really well for the algorithm. So after you've created that new content, this is a great time to share it in your email list and also in social media. And if it makes sense for your industry, you may want to take that same blog post and share it out to syndication sites. The most popular of those is Medium. If you import your story into Medium, it will not negatively impact the SEO of that particular article, because it has that little line along the bottom that says, this post was originally published on this date at this location. And basically that will just say to Google, hey, send the Google search traffic over to the original page, not to the page on Medium, but you can tap into a whole audience of people there. But everything that I've just talked about will have maybe like a 24 to 48 hour window of promotion. People aren't necessarily going to go way back in their emails or way back in your LinkedIn feed to get access to those things. So what are some ways that we can still continue to share your content long term without you needing to create new content? One thing that you can do is to take those pieces of content that you've created and load them into a tool that will repurpose the content for you and post it for you multiple times over time. I use a tool called COSCHEDULE where I can take my blog post right from WordPress, load it in through their plugin, have it show up on my marketing calendar, and then put it into my requeue folders. That way it will automatically post for me every couple of weeks. And that way people who maybe weren't following me a few months ago will see it this time. But there are a lot of other tools out there that will do this. So check out SmarterHue or SocialBeat or Meet Edgar, or I'm sure people can share more in the comments below of their favorite social tools that they use for this. The point being, whatever tool you can use to make sure that you don't just have a content graveyard hanging out on your website, but that people are consistently seeing the content that you've already created. Another tool that might help your content to be found in a long-term way is Pinterest. Pinterest is a really great tool for creating visual content that aligns with your blog posts and then driving traffic from Pinterest into your website in a long-term way. You can create taller images for every blog post that you create, load them into your Pinterest queues. You can maybe even use a tool like TAILWInd to find other people who will pin your pins for you, which you can use a function called Smart Loop, and you can just basically put your posts into Smart Loop and it will automatically publish them to Pinterest every couple of days or every couple of hours based on the boards that you want to put them in. So once you set this up, it is very much a set it and forget it tool where it will post your content out to Pinterest regularly without you needing to think about it. You can add group boards. There are tons of ways that you can use Pinterest to get longevity. So to give you an idea of how I promote my content, so that way it will have a lifespan past the 48 hours after I publish. When I publish a YouTube video, video, within a day or two, I'll also publish it to Facebook and LinkedIn and IGTV, so that way people will see it in those places where they're already hanging out. I don't expect new people to find them in those places, but for those people who are already my warm audience, they may not be subscribed to my YouTube channel and I want them to see it. I'll send out an email with a link to the YouTube video, usually within about 24 hours of publishing, so that way, again, it can give that algorithm a little bit of a boost. And then we'll also create either audiograms or carousels sharing screenshots of the YouTube videos, so that way people on Instagram will know that they can click through to IGTV or to YouTube to get more information about that video. And then for my blog post, we usually create a couple different Pinterest images that we can put into our Tailwind queue to start getting those new blog posts pushing out into the Pinterest universe. And then we also have it set up that as soon as we publish anything to the blog or the YouTube channel, it will automatically show up in the COSCHEDULE marketing calendar, and we can load it into Requeue and make sure that people are seeing it in the long term, not just in that short-term time period that works for the social media algorithms. So if you feel like you've been spending too much time on social media and you wish you could take a break, or you wish you could do a little bit less work on those specific posts, think about starting from creating evergreen content, the kinds of things that you can share over and over and over again for months and years to come on your social media channels. Maybe choose 1 or 2 days a week that you have that evergreen content being pushed out to your channels, and then you only need to fill in 1 or 2 other days a week with the fresher content or the engagement posts. By taking the evergreen content that you're creating for your website and pushing it out to your social channels, it gives you a little bit of a break from that social media hamster wheel. Even if you only set up whatever your republishing tool is to go twice a week, then maybe you can fill in with those more time-sensitive posts about launches, or engagement posts where you're posting polls and trying to get feedback from people and asking them about their weekends. So instead of feeling like you need to be creating all the time, maybe some of this can take half the time away from you, and you can take that time that you used to spend on that super time-sensitive content that you had to create and create more of this long-term asset that will continue to grow in value in your business without needing to wait around for Google to notice it. If this is a process that helps you, I would love if you could like the video. If you want more videos just like this, please subscribe to the channel. Definitely share in the comments below how this process works for you. If you have any other tool recommendations, I would love to hear them. And I'll be back next week with more advice about how to make SEO and content marketing work for you in the limited amount of time that you have in your business. I'll see you then.